Thank you very much. So I need you to do one more thing for us. Just turn to the person seated next to you, tell them good morning in your language. Oh. Wonderful. We must learn by force, by fire. Yeah? Thank you, thank you. Anita, how do you say good morning in your language?
Good morning.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And if we can have your attention and we can officially start the opening ceremony for what will arguably be a groundbreaking 48 hours. We are projecting the importance of women's economic empowerment. By the time we leave here, we'll understand the values and the importance of situations in which we have to push policy that helps to propel women's economic empowerment forward. My name is Anita Erskine.
And as always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. So for those who actually want to get simultaneous translation, there are devices on your table. Feel free to reach out to them so that you don't miss any word, including a full stop. They're actually translating all that. And the channels are one for English is channel 1, and channel 2 is for French. And of course, if you want to connect with the rest of the world and make this conversation here available globally through your devices, please feel free to also connect to the Wi-Fi that is open at the moment.
I would like, first of all, to start with a resounding round of applause for the world's women. Ladies and gentlemen, today and in this room is the only place that the loudest applause is the one that inspires the women around the world to understand that as 120 of us have gathered here in Kigali, essentially we are going to inspire policy and inspire change that will change millions, perhaps even billions of women's lives. So with humility, when I say give the world's women a round of applause, it's got to be a little louder than that. Ladies and gentlemen, please applaud for the world's women. Thank you. Trust me, it's the only time I'll ask you to do that. We are also streaming live here from the ballroom at Serena Hotels. And I want to say that those of you who are unable to join us physically, well, the only thing you're missing is the energy. But trust me, over the next 48 hours or maybe the next 2 days, you are going to be able to absorb the essence, the power, the lessons, the conversations that are going to be emanating from this room into the rest of the world. Before I hand over to my brother Eugene, please allow me to acknowledge our special guests of honor who have granted us, out of their very busy schedules, their time to join us for the opening ceremony. I want to say a big welcome and thank you for joining us, Belen Calvo-Yuyara, who is the ambassador of the European Union to Rwanda. Heike Uta Detman is the ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Rwanda. We're also joined by Junior Lodge, Assistant Secretary General, Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. Addis Ten Marte is the Technical Vice Minister of Women's Affairs, Government of the Dominican Republic. Patricia Yao is the Head Movement of Small and Medium Enterprises, La Côte d'Ivoire. We're also joined virtually by Svenja Schulz, who is the Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development Germany. And I'm going to give you the honors to mention who our Deputy CEO is.
Right, wonderful. And the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Rwanda Development Board, Nelly Mukazaire. Let's appreciate her one more time, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to start off this program by asking, or joining us on the stage, asking Her Excellency the Ambassador of the European Union, Rwanda, to join us, Belen Calvo-Yuyara, to say a few words. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Energy, energy until she gets there, please, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
So good morning. So Ms. Nelly Mukasaire, the Deputy CEO of the Rwandan Development Board, Junior Lodge, the Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, Ms. Aditen Marte, the Technical Vice Minister of Women's Affairs of the Government of the Dominican Republic, Patricia Yao, the head of the movement of the Petites et Moyennes Entreprises in Côte d'Ivoire, my colleague, Ms. Heike Uta Detman, the ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Rwanda, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, distinguished colleagues, friends all, Murakasanesa, welcome, bienvenidos. It is a great honor to welcome you all to this pivotal conference on the investment climate reform for women in economic empowerment that has been supported by the European Union, the Organization of the Africa, Caribbean and Pacific States, BMS, British Council, and in partnership with the Rwandan Development Board. It really is incredibly heartening to see such a diverse representation here today. There are representatives from 38 countries from the Africa, Caribbean, and Pacifics, and also from different regional and international organizations. This really brings a wealth of perspectives, experiences, ideas, enriching our discussions, and will help us all to craft solutions that are innovative and globally relevant for building an investment climate for women empowerment. Rwanda hosted a few weeks ago the African CEO Forum with a theme which was Africa on the menu or at the table. Here we're discussing about women on the menu or at the table. And we definitely want to bring economic policies, investment strategies, and the foundations for an inclusive, equitable, and prosperous future where women are sitting at the table. The investment climate report is often perceived through the lens of numbers, regulations, and market dynamics, but is much more than that. We are going to be working about building an environment and an ecosystem where opportunities abound, where innovation thrives, and where every individual has the chance to contribute and be an agent for economic progress. So we will be working on the investment climate reform that serves the need for women that have historically been underserved. And this is not only a slogan. This is not only about building an economic, it's not only about a social justice, it's about an economic imperative. The McKinsey Global Institute estimates that closing the gender gap in labor force participation could add up to 28 trillion to global GDP by 2025. So this is about economic empowerment for all. But there have been barriers that have been blocking women from accessing to this economic power. And these barriers include lack for access to finance, discriminatory regulations, inadequate support for entrepreneurship, or societal norms. And that's why we are here today, precisely to build this economic investment climate and the conditions to bring women around the table. I would like to pause for a moment to appreciate a host today, Rwanda, that has been leading the way in terms of women empowerment with a very determined leadership, determination to bring women on board. It's not only about the 61% woman participation in parliament, but it's about the woman in finance, where you lead the way in promoting women participation and empowerment from the top. And the EU is very proud to partner Rwanda in this endeavor. We have measures and we are working together in mentorship programs that support women empowerment. We're working together with the Ministries of Youth and UNDP in a flagship Aguka program that focuses on women entrepreneurs. We're working on Hunger Hub project that also brings spaces for women in the secondary cities. And we're very proud to be focusing also in a finance space in bringing a woman. In that regard, a recently approved program of NACIDA between the Dutch FMO and the IMM Bank requires 30% focus on women, youth, and agriculture. The same applies on a recent loan lines, budget lines with the Bank of Kigali that leverage also support and earmarks funding to gender equality. But we recognize that women empowerment requires a multifaceted approach and a comprehensive agenda that promotes and ensures equal rights at all levels. This is what we're doing with the conference today, that has a number of themes and discussions that will cover from gender sensitivity, industrial policies, to care economy, from duty to opportunities. It will be focusing on gender inclusive workplace, integrated gender in public finance for women leveraged business. And this is the kind of comprehensive discussion that we are looking forward to today. So as we embark on this journey, I would like to urge each and one of you today to bring the passion on the table, your ideas and your commitment, in order to together build up this investment climate for economic empowerment and to foster a more equitable and sustainable growth and prosperous future for all. So thank you for this, and all the best for the discussions in the next 48 hours. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I think she deserves another round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Forward-thinking, forward-looking, solutions-focused, and commitments. This is what we're expecting to see at the end of this particular forum. And now, we'd like to also put our hands together for the Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Rwanda, Heike Uta Detman. Let's appreciate her, ladies and gentlemen.
Mudao, guten Morgen, good morning, bonjour, muy buenos dias. What an audience. I mean, I just love the energy in this room, and yeah, I love to look at all the faces here. Before we had the honor to be seated in this room here, we had a small get-together with the panelists, Belen and myself. And yeah, I was just so pleased to have a short exchange with Nelly, Junior, Adis, and Patricia, who will be the first panelists this morning. And I think you have a real lot to be looking forward to. So I'm really pleased, dear delegates, honorable members of Rwandan institutions, dear ambassador of the European Union to Rwanda, dear Belen, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, it's a real pleasure for me to be here and to give you also from my side a warm welcome to the conference with the, I think, a bit longish but nice title, Investment Climate Reforms for Women's Economic Empowerment. Yes, I mean, this as such is a statement. And I'm really pleased that Germany, alongside our partners like European Union, Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, British Council, and of course with the huge support of Rwanda Development Board, is supporting this conference through our Investment Climate Reform Facility. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know about the significant global challenges that concern all of us. Geopolitical upheavals, poverty, inequality within and between countries, and of course, the perils of climate change. There is no doubt that to address these challenges and to meet the Sustainable Development Goals and to fulfill our international commitments, economies have to transform in a sustainable way. And this, I mean, this is also almost a no-brainer. This includes looking at the role of women within the economy. We all know, and I think all of you, especially in this room, know that women face particular challenges as entrepreneurs, employees, investors, managers, workers, and so on. So, yeah, many questions arise, and I imagine that all of you have already, in one way or the other, been confronted with these questions. Why do women enjoy just 64% of the legal protection that men profit from. Other question, why would anyone think that there's no impact on women's ability to engage in the economy when they spend every day working much more normally than men, like on average putting 2.4 more hours a day on unpaid care work than men? And how can the finance gap of 1.7 trillion US dollars for women-owned micro, small and medium enterprises be closed? These are pertinent questions, and there are so many more about why is the world as it is, especially for women as it is. And very simply put, we cannot transform our economic systems without considering the specific needs and the specific capacities of women. The German government is a strong advocate for equal participation of women in social, political, and economic life. And I've been working for the German government, or for changing German governments, for a long while, and I tell you, it was high time that we really focus on these questions. Last year, the ruling coalition published the Feminist Foreign and Development Policy Frameworks. The German government is committed that by 2025, more than 90% of the new development commitments are to be earmarked for projects that advance gender equality. Our efforts are guided by the 3 R's. It's always nice to have 3 in a row. The 3 R's being rights, resources, and representation. And this conference that you are dedicating your time and efforts to these 2 days will build on these 3 R's as well. On rights, you will, for example, discuss inheritance and property rights. On the second R, resources, you will have the opportunity to engage with peers on improving access to finance for women, a very crucial fact. And the third R, on representation. You will be discussing how public-private dialogue processes can better consider the needs of women. I have the pleasure to wish all of you a successful conference, inspiring exchanges, networking, very important, and insightful discussions. In the end, everyone will benefit from the results of this conference. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Vielen Dank, Muda Kusechane.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we migrate into a crucial conversation that could probably be described as the highlight of the opening ceremony this morning, a 60-minute conversation themed, how can economic policy reforms strengthen women's economic empowerment? Now, this conversation will set a tone for the ICR4WEE Conference, and it will do this by addressing key issues related to women's economic empowerment, and of course, highlighting the importance of policy reforms, inclusive approaches, and financial inclusion in achieving gender equality in the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, to navigate this panel discussion, please allow me to bring back to the stage my brother, Eugene Anangwe, who will then announce his 4 panelists for the conversation. Eugene, over to you.
A round of applause to Anita, please. She's doing a great job.
Thank you, Anita. I want us to just dive straight to it. I will be able to call my panelists who will be joining me on set. I know we've flown different airlines and sometimes we enjoy the free seating, but this one, it will not be free seating. I'll guide on how you'll sit for now. So I'll be able to start off by calling the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Rwanda Development Board, Nelly Mukazaire, to join us on set. Second seat, yes, from father's end. Let's appreciate Nelly, please, one more time. Yes, wonderful. Also joining us is Junior Lodge, Assistant Secretary General, Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. Karibu. Now we come that way, all the way. Can we please appreciate him one more time? Right. Also joining us is Adisten Marte, who's the Technical Vice Minister of Women's Affairs, Government of the Dominican Republic. Energy until she gets on the seat. Please, let's go. Wonderful. Wonderful. And lastly, let us also put our hands together for the head Mouvement de Petites et Moyennes Entreprises de Côte d'Ivoire, Patricia Yao. Can we please appreciate her one more time, please? Yes, the last seat over here. You know, I keep saying the French I know is not so much. I can ask for water. J'ai faim is I'm sick. No, j'ai faim is I'm hungry. Right, so wonderful. So thank you so much for making the time and for joining us. Anyone who doesn't have a microphone, let me give you. Yes. Everybody has a mic? Nelly, you don't. There you go. Wonderful. So I want us to kick off this conversation and first of all, just pick your brains or minds, first of all, on such a forum. A lot of times we have great meetings like this, great forums like this, and sometimes they go as a wasted opportunity because we do not follow through on so many things or so many levels. And I want to hear your thoughts, first of all, starting off with Nelly. What's your take, first of all, on such a forum? How do we ensure that these 2 days do not go to waste?
Good morning, everyone. Let me first of all start by wishing you, extending to all of you a very, very warm welcome to Rwanda and to Kigali. Thanks for visiting Rwanda. Thanks for being with us. For those who are coming first time, please, while around, take a moment to visit and ask those who came for the second or third to show you the most interesting corners for art, culture, food, and everything. So again, it's also a pleasure for me to be having this discussion, and this is personal. And I really want to, all of us, as we discuss these 2 days, make this forum real and personal, and discuss the tangible challenges, discuss the solutions, break barriers to really name the way things are, and find solutions that are going to be practical and measurable. I find this interesting because as a Rwandan and a woman sitting here having this conversation, it's not something we take for granted. We know for a fact it's a journey. As a country, we can talk of a journey of 30 years of growing, transforming our lives from the genocide against the Tutsi, but it's not a transformation which does not speak of real people. So I take this conversation personal because we are living examples in this room of what we are going to discuss here, of the realities we are into, of the challenges we still face, and of the fact that solutions will have to come from us. Nobody else will make the changes we want to discuss during these days. Trust me, it will start from the 38 nations that are gathered here, the 120 people gathered here, actually even many. We are an army for transformation. Because some of these started by only one person, a vision, a mission, a commitment, a leadership, and also bringing on board people. So it is an exciting moment for me to be seated here. This speaks volume. There's a whole journey behind having Nelly Mukazaire sitting on this panel today. And there's a whole journey having my sisters, Bennett and others, all of you. So how about we really be real in discussing that? How we went through what we went through and what we still have to go through as women together with our brothers, and be real in terms of what we really need to do to face the reality that is ahead and to have tangible solutions. So that is my call for these 2 days.
Wonderful, Nelly. Let's appreciate her. Thank you.
it's got to come from the heart. It's got to be personal. And thank you so much for that. Junior, for you, what would make us take advantage of this forum today?
Difficult to follow up after such an inspiring opening salvo. But if I were to think of this, it is in terms of if I were to think in terms of what this represents, I work for the OECPS, Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. We have been long-standing partners with the European Union, and this kind of program, the ICR, comes from engaging with the European Union, thinking how we can reform the investment climates in OECPS countries to boost economic development. So, but we sit far away in a lofty, comfortable place called Brussels. Coming here, not only to Kigali, to Rwanda, but also OECPS countries, meeting practitioners, meeting people who are on the ground, it either challenges us in terms of the kinds of initiatives that we promulgate and think that we're doing a good job in administering, or it compels us to reflect. And therefore, this is what I think is the essence of an engagement like this, talking with practitioners on the ground, people who are far better equipped to know what is happening and to advise people who sit in lofty towers like myself in terms of what we are doing. So while I'm a panelist, my memo to myself is to try and listen and learn.
Powerful. Thank you very much. Let's appreciate him as well. As you pass the microphone to Adis, you got one, right. How is this conference significant for you from where you sit?
Thank you very much, moderator, and I want to thank to the European Union and GIZ for the invitation to the Dominican government for this conference. And I want to say good morning to my colleague in the panel and to all of the people here. After 24 hours traveling to come here, I'm very happy. Very happy for being here and to take advantage of this opportunity to share some ideas with delegates and participants from Caribbean, Africa, and Pacific states about women empowerment. I like the way that the organizers designed this conference with participants from civil society organization, public sector, and private sector. And it's the way that we have to work to generate more inclusive society and to generate more development economic opportunity for women. I have three general ideas for this conference. And one idea is that this conversation about women economic empowerment is a conversation about rights. In the way that the ambassadors say, one of the R, this conference is also about rights, because women economic empowerment give us the opportunity to push others' women's rights, like right to education, right to health, and also to reduce women's violence, to reduce the violence against women. And another idea is that women economic empowerment is fundamental to achieve more society, more inclusive society. We need more policy, more mechanisms, more institution, more actor engaged with women economic empowerment. It's one of the ways to achieve more inclusive society. And I also have questions for this conference. And one of the questions that I have, not only for the conference, but in the work that we are doing in the government of the Dominican Republic, is how we can do it faster, how we can make the transformation faster. Every time that I listen from UN Women that we are 300 years away from closing the gender gap, it makes me feel that my heart is broken. How we can do it faster, how we can generate more opportunity for this generation of women and for the future generation of women. So I bring idea, experience, but also question that I hope to share and listen and learn from you today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. You even also alluded to one point that will come to the role of policy, and in fact, in fastening this space of closing this gender gap. We'll talk about that in just a while. I want us to hear from Patricia Yao. I mean, how important is this forum for you from where you sit?
Je voudrais commencer par reprendre le thème d'une étude qui avait été faite par la Banque mondiale. Et le thème, c'était « Et si l'émergence était une femme ?» Et si l'émergence était une femme? Et cette étude-là avait démontré, c'était une étude qui concernait la Côte d'Ivoire, que si le pays adoptait des politiques en faveur de la parité et de l'équité homme-femme, le pays pourrait être classé parmi les pays à revenus intermédiaires et que le pays pouvait engranger des revenus supérieurs entre 6 et 8 milliards de dollars. Donc, vu sous cet angle-là, je pense que c'est un problème qui relève de la compétitivité même des États. Donc, adopter une politique de parité homme-femme n'est plus quelque chose qui relève d'un simple ministère de la femme ou d'un simple département. C'est plutôt une stratégie macro, puisqu'on parle de compétitivité, on parle de pays qui passent d'échelle, on parle de pays qui gagnent beaucoup plus de revenus. Donc, c'est pour ça que moi, je suis content de participer à cette conférence. Est-ce que ce sera une conférence de trop? Je pense que non. Est-ce que ce sera 2 jours de gaspiller? Je pense que non. Est-ce que moi, j'ai la solution? Moi, non, mais je pense qu'ensemble, on a la solution. C'est pour ça que je suis là. Et je pense qu'au sorti de ces 2 jours-là, tout ensemble, on trouvera des solutions qui vont nous permettre de faire avancer les politiques en faveur des femmes. Et parce que je pense qu'il y a des expériences de certains pays qui peuvent profiter aussi à d'autres, et que c'est en mettant ensemble nos connaissances que nous allons arriver à faire pousser les barrières. Donc voilà pourquoi je suis là, et je suis certaine qu'au sorti de ces 2 jours-là, nous sortirons avec des... Vous m'entendez? Nous sortirons avec des solutions concrètes qui vont permettre de faire avancer. Donc seul, je n'ai pas la solution, mais ici, tous ensemble, dans la salle, je pense que nous avons la solution.
Wonderful. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing that up, especially now that we want to talk a bit about policy. I'd also try to see lessons learned from the specific jurisdictions that we sit. I want to come back to Nelly here. Nelly, you did allude to the journey, especially on where we are today here as a country, even at a personal level. But I want to understand what sort of policy reforms, from your perspective, from where you sit, still need to be put in place to achieve even more effective policies promoting women economic empowerment here in Rwanda, a country that we know has been a champion for gender and women's rights.
Thank you very much. I think as my colleagues on the panel mentioned it, we always need to start maybe from the beginning of the whole context. Why are we even having this discussion? My colleagues on the panel mentioned it. Women's empowerment is not only alluded to individual person, or that it's a whole agenda that affects all of us as a humanity. Women empowerment is crucial for economic development. If you're a nation or a population of people, you want to talk and you're in a journey of development, which is a common journey to all of us in the world, you really have also to think and talk and walk towards women empowerment. It is important for justice in the society. It's important for even society progress. The nitty-gritty of our daily lives progress is linked to women empowerment. When we discuss about these barriers and we want to push them and see how we get solutions, we are looking at inclusivity, you're looking at equity and sustainable development. Because if you leave women out of that conversation and out of taking part, well, you may have it a month or 2 months or a year or 3 years, but you won't have a sustainable. Because when you do that, you're looking at a progress that affects individuals, families, communities, and then nations. So before we even talk of reforms, I think it's important that when we discuss this, we realize it's not a reform to just increase women visibility or women being part of decision making. No. Or it's not individualized to a woman. It's reforms that indeed look at the whole change in the community and the society and the nations. So before we even mention those that need to be done, let me give some examples of those we've been able to do in Rwanda and what it has given as a result. We're still having a journey. It's a modest step we've been able to take. But when we want to really discuss what works, what doesn't work, and what more do we need, I think giving some examples of what has so far worked may worth also to be shared. I'll mention 3 aspects. One is the intention from the leadership to have women representation in decision-making positions. By having in our constitution that 30% of all decision-making positions have to have women, as a leadership, you are intentionally driving that. Because from deciding that, then you have also other reforms that will allow you to have women who are decision makers, which means you look at also education. Then reforms will have to be done, policies will have to be done to improve and promote girls' education and women education, because at the end of the day, not only for their lives, but if you want to have quality decision makers, women decision makers, they need to be educated. So then that is one of the reforms that happened. The rights, you spoke of that. How do we make sure women, when they're even in working place, they are not being segregated when they're pregnant, they can still pursue. By the way, pregnancy is not a sickness, it's not inability. It's one of the steps in our journey, which we are so proud of, because men, sorry, that's private to us. So, so how do you put also policies that they are not prevented from their rights and for their ability to contribute? Today, we've increased 14 weeks of maternity, 7 weeks of paternity, because yes, we also need to do it with our husbands, our brothers, and in that community. I mentioned one about also access to rights or access to ability to have that power, because empowerment goes with all those aspects. One, today in Rwanda, women have rights on land as much as the way men have it. From even the laws of inheritance, now girls, children or girls' child can also inherit, which is still not the case in so many regulations in different countries, and that have given them ability to also have ways. But now when you're that, let me share some of the figures you have. When you speak of decision making, 61% now of women in parliament, 50% in cabinet, 50% in judiciary. But another figure I want to share before I come back to you, Anangwe, is what we've seen now in 2023 in the numbers we have as Rwanda Development Board. 51% of individual enterprises that we registered in 2023 are women's enterprises. That is very interesting, because that means, yes, please clap for that, all the ladies. Because that means they are not only being empowered in decision-making political positions, but they're now also owning businesses, entrepreneurship and companies. 34% of majority shareholders in companies we have registered are women. 34% of majority shareholders. That is also a very big indicative number, and it speaks volume into what is happening. That means they are also owning, but also men are now accepting that we can have majority shareholders and the company will still be successful. What is missing now? And then last one is about the land. We realize that 41% of sole registered landowners are women. But the next question is, what do they do with that land? What is happening? So that is where we are going to discuss on what is missing. They have land, yes, but access to finance, ability to get the maximum out of that land, freedom to do different things they may want to do. Those are some of the aspects I believe we will discuss on what to do next.
Yeah. Maybe while you still have the mic, by the powers vested in me by the organizers of this event, I'll just ask you if you can answer to us that specific question. What's happening? Because I know at the level of Rwanda Development Board, the CEO sits in cabinet where policies are decided and all that. Just share with us, just in a nutshell, what's being done to fix that problem you just mentioned?
Good. We're still on a journey. We want to mention this as if we've already got there. But I'll mention 3 things that are being done, even starting from Rwanda Development Board. For example, in our Department of Export Promotion, we intentionally work with women enterprises and women companies that are involved in export, into capacity building, into access to finance, working with the BDF. BDF is a fund that government of Rwanda has set to facilitate mainly young and women. It has 2 aspects. It can support you in terms of giving a guarantee if you want to get a loan in a bank, but it also has a component of grants, depending on the level of business you want to do. So that's practical ways and funds that the government has set so that, in particular, women and young people can have access to finance. On top of that, as RDB, we work also with enterprises to get access to the market. We go with them in trade fairs, in international fairs, in road shows, and we support that whole journey. We put them in touch with the national market where they can export. Last but not least is also to attract investment into their particular businesses. We have a program we call investment matchmaking, where we look at a company, we look at an enterprise, we see all the gaps that may be there, work with them to find finances to get to that level, corporate, governance, all the issues, and then also sell it to potential investors. Yeah. In that case, we do the upper and the down work together so that we can bridge the gap. Those are some of the practical examples we have, and the BDF fund, which is available, but also in banks. Today, there's always that endowment fund that helps women to get credit or to get loans that have favorable rates, but also have a guarantee, which we know most of the time is a challenge to the women and also to the young people.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Junior, I'll skip you. I'll skip you for now. I mean, most of the times we've had Manels, and today let's just be able to hear. I want to just cross over to Addis for a moment, just be able to get your perspective from the Dominican Republic in terms of where you see the need for advancing women's economic empowerment. What are those areas? What are those policy reforms? How is it happening from the country and the area that you work from?
Yeah, thank you very much. And we see in the Dominican women economic empowerment as an essential right to advance toward more equal society, leaving no one behind, of course. In the Dominican, we have a national gender plan for equity and development, and through this plan, we recognize women economic empowerment as one of the 7 national then that we have for women development. So through this plan, which is a tool to work with the whole public sector, we follow and we monitor the different policies that the government is implementing to improve the women economic empowerment. And for this conference, I want to highlight at least like 3 examples of the policy that we are implementing right now to increase the women economic empowerment. One of the strategies that we are implementing is the increasing the facility to access to financial service. We have a public program, which is, the name is PromiPyme, which is the largest program with financial resources to support a small and medium enterprise. In this program, to financial a small and business enterprise led by women is a priority. And in the last 3 years, we increased the amount of loan that the program is delivering to women. Actually, the 68% of the budget of this program is delivered to women. So we are increasing the number of women, small and business enterprise in the Dominican, and also supporting them through the to access to other facility that the government is generating. For example, another facility which is accessing to the public market through the public procurement. In the last 3 years, we increased in 9,000 the number of small and medium business enterprise led by women that are ready to make business with the government. And now we have more women that already know the process, that can increase the amount of the contract that they have with the government. So we are putting the public market to facilitate and also to expand the women economy in the country. And another example of the policy that we are implementing, and is the most promising policy in my belief, is the care policy. We have 3 years working, designing and piloting the care policy. And why is that important? One of the reasons is because we have more than 800,000 of women in the DR that cannot access to the labor market, or they cannot realize their ideas of business because of care responsibility at home. So we are responsible for make changes in that reality that women in the Dominican are living. And also the COVID pandemic show us how deep is this problem. And today in the afternoon, we have a particular session, I think here in this room, regarding with care policy in the Dominican, and I hope also to learn a little bit more about how other countries in Africa and Caribbean and in the Pacific are working to give more opportunity for women through the policy of care.
Right, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. We can appreciate her for that input. Patricia, I want to hear your thoughts, especially when it comes to the strides that Côte d'Ivoire has made. We know there's been a lot of progress. However, we still have some challenges. In particular, we know a challenge that is cross-cutting, access to finance, which also Nelly mentioned as one of the challenges, market opportunities, capacity building for women enterprises. I want to understand what sort of policies that are in place that are aimed at promoting women empowerment in this area, and how these policies can further strengthen, and ensure that there is more inclusiveness and in participation for women in fixing those gaps that I just mentioned earlier.
Le cas de la Côte d'Ivoire est assez particulier, vous l'avez mentionné. Il y a eu beaucoup d'efforts qui ont été faits. C'est pour dire que juridiquement, on vous dira, juridiquement, il n'y a pas de distinction entre les hommes et les femmes. Mais les défis sont un peu plus sournois. C'est-à-dire que les hommes et les femmes ont juridiquement les mêmes droits, mais dans la pratique, on se rend compte qu'il y a des défis en termes d'accès. Vous prenez par exemple l'accès au foncier. Les femmes, en principe, devraient pouvoir bénéficier au même titre que les hommes, puisque la loi nationale est au-delà des coutumes. Mais dans la pratique, très peu de femmes iront jusqu'à user de la justice pour faire valoir le droit, parce que d'abord, il y a l'accès à la justice qui est assez coûteux, et il y a cette barrière-là qu'elles n'arrivent pas à franchir. Donc, en plus de tout ce qui est politique, j'ai envie de dire, en faveur, il faut combiner des initiatives. Sinon, ce serait de prendre des politiques. Mais si dans la pratique, il n'y a pas d'initiative de sorte à faire en sorte que le cadre qui a été mis en place, les femmes puissent en bénéficier, ce sera un défi. Quand vous prenez l'accès au financement, les femmes ont 3 fois moins de chances. Ce sont les études qu'on a d'avoir accès au financement. Et avant ce panel-là, j'ai discuté avec mon collègue de la Côte d'Ivoire. Il parlait d'une étude où on parlait des PME. Il y avait 6 sur 10, par exemple, qui disaient qu'ils avaient besoin d'avoir accès à un crédit. Et sur ces 6-là, il y avait peut-être 2 qui postulaient, mais il n'y avait pas de femmes parmi les 2. Donc, c'est plutôt des programmes qu'il va falloir construire à l'intérieur. Des programmes de mentorship, des programmes d'accès au financement, bien sûr, en couplant là-dedans la garantie, parce que la garantie va rester la plus grande barrière pour l'affranchir. Et je disais comme ça avec des femmes de mon association. Beaucoup d'entre elles sont mariées sous le régime de la communauté de biens. Et quand vous devez avoir un crédit avec ce régime-là, votre mari doit donner son avis puisque c'est la communauté qui est engagée. Et dans cette démarche-là, j'avoue qu'il y a très peu qui arrivent à avoir des résultats. Parce que la banque, elle a besoin de garanties à côté. C'est vrai, il y a des initiatives qui méritent d'être plus amplifiées. Plus amplifiées, on a déjà quelques résultats, même c'est assez timide avec ce qu'on a, mais ça va être plus amplifié. Ce qu'il faut faire, c'est surtout des programmes aussi, pas seulement d'accès au financement, mais l'appui non technique. C'est-à-dire qu'il faut alterner l'appui financier et l'appui non financier afin de pouvoir booster les femmes là-dedans. Très souvent, vous allez voir les femmes beaucoup plus au niveau du microcrédit. Quand vous prenez la structure des financements, vous allez voir beaucoup de femmes au niveau du microcrédit. Lorsque vous montez dans un crédit de taille un peu plus important, on a moins de femmes. C'est comme si on avait l'impression que le microcrédit n'était destiné qu'aux femmes et qu'elles ne pouvaient pas être beaucoup plus ambitieuses pour aller dans d'autres, et même dans certains corps de métier en fait. Donc pour moi, c'est une meilleure synergie entre le pouvoir public et le pouvoir privé, de sorte qu'on puisse bénéficier d'un cadre plus avantageux, mais avec l'appui des partenaires au développement, construire un ensemble de programmes. On a de bonnes perspectives parce qu'il y a un programme qui est en train d'être mis en place avec la Banque allemande de développement pour mettre en place un fonds de garantie au sein de la société de garantie qui existe pour les femmes, pour leur permettre d'avoir accès au marché. Donc, c'est beaucoup plus des barrières sournoises qui ne sont pas écrites. Et quand c'est sournois, c'est difficile de pouvoir y aller. Il faut y aller par des constructions de programmes, des mentorships, d'accès au financement et j'ai envie de dire même de discrimination sur certains crédits, en fait, sur les lignes de crédit. Et là, c'est le gros défi que se trouvent les femmes face au financement. Ce qui vient que très peu, beaucoup restent sur la micro, et elles n'arrivent pas à passer à l'échelle pour pouvoir créer un peu plus d'impact. Voilà.
Interesting. I like the fact that yes, let's appreciate, please. It's a very important intervention. We seem to know where the challenges are, and also we seem to have the solutions. And this is very interesting. And I want us to move this conversation forward now and try to look at the approaches that would be effective in promoting women's economic empowerment. And I want to bring you back, Junior, on this particular question. And I want to understand, how can regional organizations like the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States facilitate knowledge sharing? Because we seem to have pockets of solutions. And if we don't share this knowledge, if we don't properly collaborate among member countries, then we might not be able to fix the problems that we're trying to fix. How can we do this?
Thank you very much. I think the first point is to understand the fierce urgency of now. I come to that armed with the comments that Addis made in terms of 300 years to fix the gender gap. I knew of the data that Belen shared in terms of the 25 trillion. And yet we don't seem to internalize that there is an economic imperative. It is not simply about gender equality. That is important, no question about it. Also, of course, for the dignity, not just of women, but of humanity. But there is a compelling economic argument in terms of powering women's economic empowerment. And I sense, and if I were to be self-critical, that I don't think even ourselves as policymakers are sufficiently compelled about the need to act with the fierce urgency of now. So
and I'm wondering, why is that? What do we need, carrot or stick?
That's a question which compels me to reflect. I genuinely can't say, but in a sense, this is not so unique, and I'm not trying to cop out of this, because we also know, for example, that in the realm of climate change, that we need to act. compellingly. And yet, in spite of the data, the analysis, that action escapes us. So, in my view, there's a need for us to just seize, internalize that there is a missed economic opportunity precisely in a context, whereas we all know the report of the halftime implementation of the SDGs suggests that we're falling behind. So there is a compelling economic case in order to promote women's economic empowerment. So I think in a way it starts with just the mere need, that this is not simply about gender equality, and this is not simply about gender equality or sustainable economic development, that actually gender equality promotes sustainable economic development. So that's the first. The second is in terms of adopting a whole set of interventions. And the German ambassador mentioned 3 R's. I like to think of it more in terms of the 4 P's, and I'm hoping that I can recall them. The first is partnerships. We, as in the OECPS, have had a long-standing partnership with the European Union, and that has resulted in a set of not only policies but interventions. And more so in the case of the OECPS, we are reliant on partnerships, and these are tremendously important. But the partnerships also have to move beyond just, let's say, traditional partners such as the European Union, but moving also down to what you would call the granular level. So most of the, this morning I came in a bus and I sat beside a delegate from Ghana. I'm trying to see if I can identify her. But essentially, she's working for the Ghana Development Bank and looking at promoting gender, more financial inclusion for women. We need to connect with entities such as those. So partnerships, terribly important. Second is policies. Again, from the narrow OECPS perspective, we have developed a revised private sector development strategy. And that, of course, it says all of the right things, in my view, certainly in terms of looking at access to finance, looking at increased market access, looking at the business environment, looking at the investment climate, so a whole host of policy reforms. But it also identifies particular sectors which can be compelling in order to motor our economic development. So we have a framework which is there. We also have a new framework, and it's called the Samoa Agreement. And the chapter that interests me is actually called Inclusive, Sustainable Economic Growth and Development. And it is inclusive, there's a reference to inclusive precisely because there is an understanding that we need to develop policies and interventions which are aimed at tackling what would generally be described as marginalized communities. And sadly, women are indeed part of that marginalized community, and we need to ramp up our efforts to do more. So, partnerships, policies. The third is programs. The investment climate reform is yet another, is one of 21 private sector development programs. Thank you very much. Oh, I sound different. The investment climate reform program is one of 21 private sector development programs being implemented by, well, not implemented, overseen by the OECPS and the European Union. And of course, we see the work that they're doing also in terms of specifically on women's economic empowerment, but more broadly in terms of reforming the investment climate. And there's a whole suite of interventions that we have that are aimed at women's empowerment. We see, for example, ACRIFI and the ABC Fund, where these are blended financial instruments that have supported over 400,000 women in agriculture. There is a business ACP, which also works on knowledge propagation, and that is, of course, very, very important. One of the issues I find compelling is how can we build on the practices of practitioners in this room? How can we scale them up? How can we benefit from the experience of Rwanda and other countries that are making significant strides? The last P, I know partnerships, right, exactly, it's platform, which is precisely that, which is indeed, how can we use initiatives such as this in terms of scaling up activities? Because again, to come back to my starting point, there's a fierce urgency of now. I'll end with one comment, however, which is again suggesting that we're not radical enough. So with respect to public procurement, and I'm happy that this mentioned public procurement, because most of our countries we're spending, or for our GDP, a quarter is coming from public procurement. What are some of the initiatives that can be used for this massive spending to promote women's economic empowerment? We seem to, again, have a special commitment to climate change, and not in the least suggesting that this is misplaced, but precisely because there is this fierce urgency of now, we need to revisit what are some of the interventions that we can undertake to increase sustainable economic development in our countries, and that starts, in my view, with women's economic empowerment. I think I'll end there, but hope that I have an opportunity to make a comment or two later.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Indeed. Yeah, thank you. Junior, I think they gave you all the powers. It's like you've taken over the session in terms of the sound, the microphone. Mine now sounds lower. Can you hear me? Okay, all right. So because of time, I'm told we need to now take our final thoughts on this. And Junior, yes, you'll get a chance to speak, and Nelly as well in closing. So I'm going to start off with Patricia as we come this way. Any thoughts for you, and also your individual commitments that you seek to be able to come out with from this Kigali conference, and also any key things that you feel, if there's anything we must remember when we leave this conference today, what would those be? Just two things as you give us your closing remarks.
Juste avant de donner ma conclusion, je voudrais signaler que quand je suis arrivée en tant que présidente à la tête de cette association, on s'y connaissait très peu en plaidoyer pour faire avancer en fait nos défis les femmes. Et nous avons reçu un support de la ICR Facility pour renforcer les capacités de nos équipes et également les capacités de notre conseil d'administration. Ça nous a permis d'abord d'équilibrer, d'avoir 50% de femmes dans le conseil, mais mieux, c'était beaucoup plus simple pour nos équipes opérationnelles de pouvoir faire les plaidoyers, et c'est là qu'on a commencé à faire avancer les choses. Et là, j'ai commencé à avoir de l'espoir. J'ai commencé à avoir de l'espoir parce qu'on a commencé à voir qu'on avait 15% de femmes qui étaient dans l'association, qui étaient membres, on est passé à 40%. Et même au niveau de l'accès au marché, on a commencé à avoir des stratégies vers le secteur minier. On avait très peu de femmes et on a réussi à renforcer les capacités de nos femmes pour les faire monter en compétences. Donc, je pense qu'il y a de l'espoir. Il y a de l'espoir, on n'est pas dans une catastrophe. C'est vrai, il y a un défi, mais ce n'est pas un défi qu'on ne peut pas surmonter. Et comment on le fait? On se fait accompagner, comme on l'a fait, nous, dans notre cas, en tant qu'association. On ne savait pas comment s'y prendre, on s'est fait accompagner. On a aussi partagé l'expérience de d'autres qui étaient beaucoup plus avancés que nous, notamment certains qui étaient au Sénégal, qui nous ont présenté comment ils ont fait cette démarche-là. Et donc, je reviens pour dire que pour moi, l'Empower Woman n'est pas un slogan. c'est pas un slogan, comme je l'ai dit, c'est un problème de compétitivité même des États. Voilà. Parce que si je me réfère toujours encore à l'étude, l'étude a démontré que si le pays adoptait une politique de parité, elle pourrait passer à l'échelle. Donc, vu sous cet angle-là, je pense que ça doit être une stratégie beaucoup plus au niveau national, qui maintenant va descendre dans toutes les échelles, et que ça devrait être transversal sur toutes les activités, sur tous les départements et sur tous les services. Et là, c'est mon cri de cœur. Et c'est de dire que tout le monde est important dans cette stratégie, que personne ne se sente, je vais dire, à côté. Tout le monde a son rôle à jouer, pas forcément en tant qu'organisation, pas forcément en tant que financier, mais chacun à son niveau peut faire bouger les choses. Même la femme à la maison peut déjà commencer à éduquer son garçon, moi je n'ai que des garçons, sur comment est-ce qu'il peut déjà lui-même aider à créer un cadre beaucoup plus idéal pour les jeunes filles de sa classe. Donc c'est une stratégie dans laquelle tout le monde devrait pouvoir s'y mettre si on veut avoir un monde plus inclusif, plus meilleur. Et pour moi, c'est comme si on avait un oiseau qui bat avec une seule aile. Tant que vous n'avez pas la femme, pour avoir la deuxième aile, vous n'allez pas aller plus vite. Donc si on veut aller plus vite, mettons les femmes à l'intérieur, on aura le meilleur monde qu'on veut tous avoir.
Wonderful, powerful, very powerful. Adis, if there's anything we need to remember from this conversation today, what would that be?
Thank you. I listened 3 letter R this morning from the ambassador, and then some P from Junior. And I want from this conference to increase my letter H regarding with hope, of course. Hope, when I see cases like Mexico, what Mexico did this week, electing the first woman as a president after 20 years of democracy. I want to increase my H letter, listening example as Rwanda, having more than the 50% of the parliament leading by women. Thank you. And increasing my leader age, because I believe that when women have the opportunity to access to the power, to lead the change, to make the reform, we will need less than 300 years to have more inclusive society. So my leader is age, and I hope that all of us can leave this conference with more hope, with a society making reform, leading by women in all of our country.
Wonderful, wonderful. Junior, yes, you have a chance to also speak to us. What should we remember from this conference? And also add in, just very briefly, what you wanted to say as your closing remarks. Yeah.
What I wanted to say was in terms of the power of education. The World Bank has shown that investing in education is important in terms of unleashing economic development. And in fact, the data that I saw was there's a 20% increase in one additional school year for women. And a child whose mother can read is 50% more likely to live past the age of 5. So the lesson for me there is in terms of complementarity, that of course we are serious about women's economic empowerment, but it goes deeper into the tentacles of policy. So that's the first, that's the comment that I would make. I wanted to say that one of the key elements in my view would be having visibly more women, especially in what is traditionally called male-dominated fields. So for example, fintech, financial technology. That is what I wanted to say. But at the same time, I feel that in a sense, while that is important, I feel it's also redundant, because I am feeling the energy, the conviction, the real desire of women on this panel and the women that I've met here. So in a sense, I'm saying that there should be more role models, but they exist and they are here. So I salute you.
My sound check.
I think I'll use
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, Nelly, go ahead. You have the last word.
Thank you very much. I think this, what I would want to take us from this conference is to have a woman empowerment wired mindset, which means from the decision of leadership, policies, strategies are intentionally looking at how we get to the women empowerment. But in the middle also, that women empowerment starts from us, women. Because if we want to talk about women empowerment, we should also go beyond looking at it as all those that are there to enable us that. But how about what actions we are taking now as women into that empowerment? How much do we support each other also as women in that empowerment? Sharing lessons, boosting each other, guiding each other, investing in women's also enterprises and opportunities. I think there's also a call to us. The more leadership enables us in different countries because of policies, politics that are there, strategies, the more there is development partners or other initiatives like what is being done in terms of giving that training, that capacity building. But women, we also have to be intentional in terms of our own empowerment. Accessing to that education, investing in one another, sharing and backing up one another. And the third one for us is the discussion in the community, in the society. She mentioned it. This is also not going to happen because of good policies and politics and strategies that are there. They are very big, but we have also to go to the core. We have to discuss the uncomfortable subjects that are related to our communities, to our cultures, without saying that everything is an issue or is a problem, but trying to also evolve with the time. And if we don't touch that discussion, and indeed start emulating it in our daily lives, in our children, for those who have them, in our families, in our community, it will just remain at the surface as good policies and strategies. It will just maybe be into those who have been able to fight. It always doesn't have to be a fight. We want to get to a point where it is smooth, it's organic, because it's part of how our communities and our societies think. The women empowerment wired mindset there. And then the beauty of the women, there's a quote I heard once from my president, which is that on the battle, you can shoot frowning, or you can also shoot smiling. So I think we also have to know with that mindset that women, we can still shoot when we have to shoot, but still smiling. It always doesn't have to be a fight. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nelly. To the panelists, I think we need to appreciate them even better. Thank you. And I must also say, in case you didn't know, Rwanda Development Board is actually the gateway to investing in Rwanda. And they actually are at the forefront of promoting customer care. And I want to tell you this, I was observant, and I can see Nelly has been leading by example. When the earpiece and the translation device had a challenge, she wanted to go on her own to do it and get it for us. So thank you so much for the humility. Thank you for showing us leadership in that sense. So let's appreciate them one more time, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to allow us to leave the stage as I hand back to my dear sister, Anita, on the other side.
Thank you so much, Eugene. A round of applause for my brother, Eugene, for managing that conversation expertly. And ladies and gentlemen, as our guests migrate to their table, I would like to ask that your eyes go to the screens as we have a special message. Joining us virtually, we have the Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development, Germany, Svenja Schulz, who will say a few words. Please take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a German. I want to come straight to the point. No society can afford to waste the potential of half of its population. And that is true for every country on this planet. Women's economic empowerment is key for making progress towards a socially just and environmentally friendly society. It leads to less poverty, less hunger, and more stability, locally and globally, and that will benefit all of us. How can we ensure at the public and the private sector level that women can participate equally in all aspects of the economy and all stages of decision making? That they have equal access to decent jobs, banking and financial services, education and training, and equal property rights. That they have equal investment opportunities. There is no one-size-fits-it-all solution, but reforms that worked well in Rwanda and the Dominican Republic can provide inspiration for other countries such as Tonga and Senegal. This conference is about precisely that, bringing your ideas and your experience together and learning from each other, giving you the opportunity to engage with peers from the public and the private sector from across Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific, providing a platform where you can discuss the challenges you face and exchange solutions and inputs in order to reform economic systems and empower women in your respective countries. Germany, alongside our partners from the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, the European Union, and the British Council, is supporting you in this. Our shared goal is that societies will no longer waste the potential of half of their population. And let's make the vision a reality. I wish you all a successful conference.
And ladies and gentlemen, talking about success, before I invite our last speaker for the opening ceremony together, I think it is important for us to give a resounding round of applause to GIZ and its partners for bringing us here safely and for giving us the essence and the feeling that it's going to be a life-changing 48 hours. So please, a resounding round of applause for our friends, our partners, our collaborators. And indeed, they're an example that when you come together, great things can happen. And speaking about that happening right now at this podium, please allow me to bring to the stage the team leader for ICR, none other than Stefan Felix. Oh, a little louder than that. This man has worked hard to make this happen.
Oh God, I feel like I need to deliver now, and I'm not sure I can. But anyway, Your Excellencies, honorable guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It's a real pleasure to stand here today and see you all. This has cost us a lot of time and nerves to put all of this together, to get you all here. So many hiccups in the last few days with flights. Some of you had really difficult journeys to get here, flights being cancelled, flights being delayed. So it's just really, really great to see that you have all managed to make it. I'm Stefan Felix, team leader of the Investment Climate Reform ICR facility, which is hosting this event. The ICR facility is a project that is funded by the European Union, the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, as well as British Council. It's implemented by 4 organizations. So you have Germany's GIZ, Expertise France, British Council, and the Dutch SNB. So whenever you see our slides and everything, you see lots of logos of our donors and the implementing agencies. Don't be too confused. It's all one facility, the ICR facility. What do? We usually provide short-term technical assistance, up to 90 expert days, to public sector stakeholders, ministries, departments, as well as private sector organizations, chambers of commerce, industry associations in OECPS countries, so in up to 79 OECPS countries. We are focused on improving the investment climate, and with a particular focus on making it easier for women to engage in business, whether that is as entrepreneurs, whether that is as employees, and whether that is as leaders. We will just show you a very quick video that summarizes the work that we do. So if I could just ask the colleagues to play the video. I'm sure will come in a second. Yeah.
The ICR facility was created in 2019 by the European Union, the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development and the British Council, so that the private sector can thrive, create decent jobs, and contribute to a sustainable transformation of economies. We deliver targeted and on-demand expertise to improve the investment climate. As of May 2024, the ICR facility has implemented 64 interventions in more than 63 ACP countries, making the business environment more conducive. Some of those ICR facility-supported interventions include supporting reforms on equal property rights for women in Uganda, helping better protect women in the informal sector in Rwanda, a more gender-inclusive industrial policy for Eswatini, supporting access to finance for women in agriculture in Senegal, gender-based diagnostic of the investment climate in Tuvalu, and Gender Lens investing with the Development Bank of Jamaica. In 2022, the donors of the ICR facility decided to increase the funding and focus on business environment reforms that support women's full participation in the economy. Why? Because women represent 50% of the population. Because without women, no sustainable growth can be achieved. And because it makes economic sense. Our interventions aim to support actors working on improving policies, regulations, and services that can have a real impact on how businesses operate, and empower private sector organizations to become more active in policy discussions and to operate in a more efficient and inclusive way. We also provide support to public development banks to strengthen their capacities and identify, prepare and implement projects and investments with high development impact, especially related to women's economic empowerment and gender lens investing. 60 development banks have benefited from our support. To ensure that a wider group of stakeholders can benefit as well, we scale up and share recommendations, lessons learned and good practices through reports and trainings to support business environment reforms. We have published reports covering important topics such as women and youth's economic empowerment, green growth, innovative finance, and more. Organize webinars to bring partners together and discuss these topics. Tell the story how these reforms are impacting men and women, and facilitate exchanges between peers from the ACP regions. Visit our website to find out more and take our online, free, self-paced course and become a champion for women's economic empowerment too. Apply for technical assistance by the deadline the 15th of July 2024.
All right, thank you very much. So our support is indeed purely demand-driven. We only act if we receive requests. The facility in its current form will come to an end towards the middle of next year. So therefore, if anyone needs sort of last-minute technical assistance, indeed we do still have some scope, but it is the deadline of 15th of July. Afterwards, we can't take on any further requests because of the closure of the project in its current form. So you're most welcome, if you're interested in that, to approach us during the conference. You see lots of us with sort of orange badges here. So if you see anyone with an orange badge, you know it's one of the organizers, so you can come to us and discuss your ideas, but also if you need any help getting around, then please do approach us. For the next 2 days, it's really our hope that all the stakeholders here from almost 40 countries take the opportunity to engage and network. I mean, that is the whole purpose of bringing you all together, to have a peer-to-peer exchange between people who are working on, in part, similar issues from across countries and, frankly, across continents. So do use that opportunity to engage. We're really grateful for those who've come, of course, from so many African countries, but we're also very, very grateful for those who've come from the Caribbean and the Pacific. I know for a lot of you this was a very, very long journey, in particular from the Pacific, partly taking 2 days to get here. So we very much appreciate that you've done it and that you've made it all the way here. It is also our hope that you really use the chance to actively engage with your colleagues. So, do give yourself the gift of time and the gift of disconnecting from the virtual world. I can see lots of laptops and phones and all that sort of stuff. Maybe turn them off for the next 2 days. You'll be back in your offices soon enough. You can then all do all your laptop stuff and all your virtual world stuff and LinkedIn and Facebook and all that. But maybe don't do it now. If I see anyone with a laptop, I'll just, turn it down. And anyway, so seriously, use the opportunity to really engage. We have lots of opportunities for that. Also, of course, coffee breaks, even though this morning I think we're sort of going through a little bit without one, but there will be a lot of coffee breaks going forward. There's also a nice social evening today that we are, of course, all invited to, which will also give you the opportunity to engage in a bit of a more informal setting. So thank you very much for coming and hoping to really make the most of the next 2 days. Thank you, and back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Stefan. And just before, ladies and gentlemen, I release you to officially start our gatherings and our workshops this morning, right to your right, to my left, you see those glass doors, is where, if you are a funded participant, during some of our breaks, you may attend to one of our colleagues, Nadine, will attend to you for issues on DSAs, etc. If for whatever reason you're not feeling too good, you're not feeling too well, you think you've eaten something that you're allergic to, the same thing, you can access that room and our colleagues will be more than happy to help you. As Stefan said, tonight we do have a dinner and it's open to all of us. Of course, we'll go through all of that later on, but we encourage you that at the end of the day, immediately after the last session, that we migrate to the tent. We encourage you not to go to the hotel to come back, because we know that a lot of you will go to the hotel and you'll turn on Netflix and you won't come back for dinner. I say this with humility. So please, please, please join us for dinner. Last but not the least, of course, we've got lunch as well in the tent. It's also outside. The teams, the organizing teams are all wearing the orange badges. So if you're lost, there tends to be a little bit of a maze in this hotel, but if you're lost, just ask any of them, tell them where you want to go, and they'll be happy to help you. Immediately after this, we divide and conquer. Essentially, a group will stay here in the ballroom. And if you're interested in the conversation on gender-sensitive industrial policies with a question of if it should matter and why it should, then you can stay in this ballroom and you'll be staying with my colleague Eugene. But if you like me and you want to hang out with me for the rest of the day, you can come with me to the auditorium, where our first conversation will be on data beyond bias, shaping policy through gender-responsive strategies and collection. Immediately after this opening ceremony, we do not have a coffee break. We go straight into our very next or first workshop. So as I said, ballroom for gender-sensitive industrial policies, should it matter and why doesn't it? Or auditorium, which is just downstairs, for data beyond bias, shaping policy through gender-responsive strategies. And these sessions both start in exactly 10 minutes. So ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the official opening end of the Investment Climate Reform Facility. And I want to say with humility that, again, as my brother said, we came as strangers and we will leave as friends, we'll leave as partners, we'll leave as collaborators. So please don't be a stranger to the person that sits next to you. Use any and every opportunity to discuss further how we go further together. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Your Excellencies and special guests, for opening our summit for us. Okay, so in a few minutes, we will reconvene. Well, for those of you coming with me to the auditorium, in a few minutes, we'll reconvene downstairs. For those of you staying here, please don't move. The workshop starts immediately. Thank you so much.